The hangar smelled of fuel, steel, and something else, something like judgment. The kind that clings to young cadets who walk in with big dreams and small flight records. The morning sun spilled through the glass panels, painting long golden stripes across rows of fighter jets, each one gleaming with quiet pride. And standing among them in her crisp, slightly oversized flight suit was Second Lieutenant Emma Hayes, the only woman in her class, and the one everyone thought wouldn't make it past simulation training. She had 162 flight hours. Not bad, but not impressive either. Not in a squadron where most of the men had fathers, uncles, or brothers who'd flown their first solo before 18. Emma didn't come from that world. She came from a broken home, from a small town where planes were things you saw in the sky, not things you ever touched. Her father had been a mechanic, not a pilot. Her mother, a nurse who worked night shifts to keep them fed. The only thing Emma inherited was a stubborn belief that she was meant for the skies. But belief doesn't earn respect in the Air Force. Ours do. And when Captain Ross Devlin, her new commanding officer, glanced over her logbook during orientation, his smirk said everything his words didn't need to. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried himself like a man who'd never been told no. When he saw her name and her logged hours, he chuckled softly, almost like it was a joke, only he understood. "Tiku hours," he said, flipping the log closed with a snap. "That's cute." The other cadets laughed quietly, the kind of laughter that cuts without drawing blood. Emma said nothing. She only nodded, saluted, and walked out to the tarmac. Her heart pounded hard enough to drown out the laughter, but she kept her face steady. She'd been underestimated her whole life. This was nothing new. Still, something inside her cracked that day, not from weakness, but from the heat of silent determination. From that moment, Emma vowed she would make the sky her proof. She spent every night studying flight paths, memorizing procedures until her eyes ached. When the others relaxed after training, she stayed back in the simulators, running drills over and over until the instructors had to force her out. Her flight partners changed weekly, but the skepticism never did. They joked about her, whispered that she was only there because the Air Force needed diversity, not skill. But Emma didn't fight them with words. She fought them with consistency. Every takeoff, every landing, every maneuver, she made each one sharper than the last. Still, Ross watched her with the same unimpressed eyes. To him, she was a rookie pretending to be a pilot. And every time she climbed into the cockpit, she could feel his disbelief like a weight strapped to her wings. The turning point came during the joint exercise between the Air Force and Navy, Operation Skyveil. It was a high-stakes training meant to test coordination under pressure, a simulated rescue mission that required perfect timing, precision flying, and absolute trust among pilots. Emma had been assigned as wing pilot in Devlin's formation, a decision he didn't take kindly. "Keep up if you can," he said coldly before they took off. "I don't babysit rookies in my airspace." The mission began smoothly, until it didn't. Midway through, a sudden systems fault struck one of the jets ahead. It was a simulation, yes, but the conditions were real enough to cause chaos. Devlin's focus faltered as the formation scattered, each pilot trying to adapt. That's when Emma's instincts kicked in. While others hesitated, she acted, calculating vectors, predicting drift, and guiding the disabled jet out of danger. Her commands were calm, precise, and carried a tone that silenced even the static in the comms. By the time they landed, the evaluators were silent. Devlin climbed out of his jet, his jaw set tight, not in anger but confusion. For the first time, he'd seen something in Emma he couldn't dismiss. Yet pride wouldn't let him admit it. So he just muttered, "Not bad for 162 hours," and walked away. But the real shock came a week later. During a debrief session, an older officer, Colonel Pierce, sat in for evaluation. When Emma's file came up, he smiled faintly at her name. Devlin noticed and frowned. "You know her?" he asked. Pierce nodded. "I should hope so. I was there the day she soloed." Devlin raised an eyebrow. "At her flight school?" "No," the colonel said softly. "At Edwards Air Force Base, she trained under Major General Aurora Kane." The room fell silent. Devlin froze, his expression unreadable. Aurora Kane was a name spoken with reverence. She was a legend, the first woman to fly the F-22 in combat, a pioneer who'd rewritten the limits of aerial tactics. She had been Devlin's hero growing up. And now the rookie he'd mocked had learned to fly from her. Emma didn't gloat. She simply looked down, tracing her finger along the edge of her flight manual. "She taught me one thing," she said quietly. "That altitude doesn't define you. Attitude does." From that day forward, everything changed. Devlin's arrogance melted into respect and his tone softened, not out of pity but out of realization. He began to see Emma not as a cadet struggling to prove herself, but as a reflection of every pilot who'd ever fought to be taken seriously. Together, they trained side by side, refining their tactics, learning from each other. Slowly, the hangar that once echoed with doubt began to echo with pride. Months later, during a live combat mission in a conflict zone, fate tested them again. Their squadron was ambushed mid-air, missile locks screaming, radar jammed, chaos everywhere. When Devlin's jet was hit and spiraled out of control, it was Emma who dove through the smoke to reach him. Despite the warnings, despite her limited experience, she stayed on him, guiding him through an emergency descent, talking him through every second. He landed alive. Because of her. When they returned to base covered in dust and sweat, Devlin looked at her the way a man looks at the truth he should have seen all along. He didn't speak. He just saluted her, eyes wet with the weight of everything unspoken. That night, Emma sat alone on the wing of her jet, staring up at the stars. The sky no longer felt like a dream far away. It felt like home. She thought of General Kane, of every doubt she'd ever faced, of every cruel laugh that once echoed in that hangar, and for the first time she smiled, not because she'd proven them wrong, but because she'd proven herself right. If this story touched your heart, if you felt even a spark of courage rise within you, please take a moment to like this video. It tells me that stories like Emma's still matter. And before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below. Have you ever been underestimated, and did it push you to rise higher than anyone expected? Because sometimes all it takes to fly is believing you already can.